Hello everyone. This is chapter 12 from my contemporary romance novel Under a Namibian Sky. Naomi found Auntie Elsa and Santina sitting in the lapa near the swimming pool. It was customary to have a barbecue dinner served in the lapa over weekends. Today, being Friday, staff were already readying tables in the cool shade of the structure behind the two women. A small table laid out with their lunches and teas separated Auntie Elsa and Santina's armchairs. Even though the sun was scorching, the German couple were in the pool. Naomi watched them, chatting with South African guests nearby, who were wise enough to sit in the shade under the stylish, large umbrellas that matched the loungers. Naomi stopped near Auntie Elsa's chair. "I hope the Germans are using sunblock. With their white European skins in this sun, they'll look like boiled lobsters by tonight without it, and no doubt will feel like it too." Auntie Elsa smiled at her adoptive daughter. She put her hand over Naomi's, resting on her shoulder. "Yes, I believe Kerry has given them some sun lotions. I haven't seen them use it yet, though." Well, you can take a horse to the water." Santina smiled at Naomi. "How is Luca? Did he enjoy his foot massage?" "He's asleep. I don't think he even knows he had one." "Or it helped to relax him so much that he fell asleep. Thank you, Naomi. I can't thank you and Kerry enough, and Elsa especially, for all you're doing for us. You must come to Italy, all three of you, so that we can repay the kindness. Promise you'll come." Santina sounded so sincere. Naomi returned her smile. "I would love to go to Italy, and I'm sure Auntie Elsa would like to visit you, but one day when the lodge doesn't require so much attention. Thank you for the invitation." Santina plainly wouldn't accept one day. "Oh no! Come soon, come, sit down, join us." One of Naomi's charges was asleep. Here was the other needing her now. How could she refuse? She pulled up a chair and joined the women at the little table. Just then, Kerry came around the corner. "Ah, here you all are. Have you had lunch yet, Naomi? I'm starved." Everyone laughed at her exaggerated performance, including the staff, who were laying the tables behind them. Kerry organised lunch and tea for her and Naomi. In practically the same breath, she ordered more tea for the older women and asked the waitress to collect their empty lunch plates. Then she joined them. The four women sat facing each other, making small talk, until Kerry leaned forward. "Auntie Elsa, I hope you don't mind, but I have a proposal for you and Santina. It's nothing formal, so perhaps I could just tell you about it now?" Kerry's request surprised neither Naomi nor Auntie Elsa. She was always thinking up some or other scheme, some great, some impractical, and others wild. But Auntie Elsa liked to encourage all her staff to take responsibility for their roles at the lodge. One way to have them feel more involved was to implement their suggestions when they were good ones. She smiled at Kerry. "Go on then, let's hear it." As Kerry spoke, Santina's eyes grew wider with wonder and twinkled with excitement. Naomi knew her friend was ambitious and creative, but even she had to take her hat off to Kerry. She had evidently prepared her pitch well, even though she was trying to keep it as casual as possible. Naomi admired her clever friend anew. Even Auntie Elsa, quite fussy about which ideas she found useful for the lodge, was full of praise. "I think it's brilliant! Well done, Kerry. You've outdone yourself. It's a win-win both for Desert Lodge and for Armati. What do you think, Santina?" "I just love the idea that Armati could supply your dune buggies. I'd agree it's a brilliant idea. It's not something we've done before, but I know the guys back in Italy will be very enthusiastic about it, and It gives us an excuse, as if we needed one, to maintain our friendship. It's perfect. I can't wait to tell Luca." "Tell me what?" No one had seen Luca approaching. At the sound of his voice, the women's heads snapped in his direction. Santina and Naomi immediately got up. "Luca, che stai facendo?" Naomi asked the same question in English, in unison with Santina. "Luca, what are you doing?" Luca spread his hands out in a placating gesture, his smile lopsided. "I was tired of lying in bed, and bored. I'm supposed to be on vacation." Carrie immediately arranged with staff members for a large armchair for Luca. Santina led him over to the chair, nodding her thanks to Carrie and the staff, while continuing her admonishments to Luca in Italian. Once seated, he responded. The passionate way in which they communicated sounded almost like they were having a massive argument. But when both had had their say, they smiled at each other and turned back to their hosts, as though nothing untoward had happened. Naomi thought the scene would have been quite funny were it not that Luca was still weak. He should have stayed in bed. But she couldn't blame him. He was on vacation after all. It was such a lovely day. Who could stay in bed on a day like this? After taking his order, Carrie arranged for lunch and coffee for Luca. He had a sip of coffee and took a bite of food before looking at each of the women, resting his eyes finally on Santina. "What can't you wait to tell me?" Santina indicated with her hand towards Carrie. "I think Carrie can better explain." Carrie didn't need a second invitation and launched right into her pitch. "I'm sure you've seen all the photos of Auntie Elsa with some of our wealthier clients in the dining room." Luca nodded and smiled at Auntie Elsa. "I'm still waiting for my invitation to such a shoot with her myself." Auntie Elsa returned his smile and nodded. "Just say the word. It will be my honour, perhaps when you're feeling a little better." "It will be my honour, dear lady. Maybe tomorrow?" Luca turned back to Carrie. "Sorry, Carrie, I interrupted you." Carrie didn't seem fazed at all. "I'll be honest with you. As you can tell, our wealthier guests rarely come here to photograph elephants, Luca. They want excitement. They want to do something that will take them away from the stresses of their everyday lives. They want adventure, and they can afford to pay for it. As you know, we don't offer shooting adventures here, and our sunrise and sunset safaris aren't exciting enough for those guys. The most thrilling thing we can offer them is a walking safari with Otayan or one of the other guards into the desert." "This can get quite hairy," Lucas snorted. "Tell me about it." Carrie reacted immediately. "Oh, sorry, I forgot." But Luca waved away her apology. "Please, continue." Carrie watched him intently, but took him at his word and continued. "But even those safaris are sometimes not stimulating enough for them. As a result, we've lost out on securing bookings from that type of guest to other lodges that offer more exhilarating forms of entertainment, and we could do with their money." Luca was still eating, his eyes riveted on Carrie. Naomi could see she had captured his interest in the subject, and he wasn't merely being polite. "Such as?" Carrie rattled off her list as though she'd rehearsed it. "Well, apart from the safaris we already offer, and the walks into the desert with Otayan and the fossil tours, there's wind gliding, dune gliding, shark fishing, diving to the many sunken ships around the Skeleton Coast, helicopter rides over the desert. But what if we could offer something the other lodges don't have? We're in a great position here, so near some of the highest dunes in the Namib. What if we could offer them fun, adventure and excitement in the form of Armati dune buggies? We could arrange for dune races and camping trips further into the desert." Luca stopped eating and sat straighter in his chair. Carrie took it as a good sign and continued with her pitch. These men are powerful in their own spheres. They want quality, even on vacation, particularly on vacation. They've worked hard and have earned the right to have their every need and every whim catered to. From experience with them, I'm sure that's how they see it. Special Amati dune buggies would be a great draw to Desert Lodge, especially if we're the only ones supplying those buggies to our guests, don't you think? Carrie sat back in her chair, triumph already shining in her eyes. Luca leaned forward, placing both elbows on the table and lacing his fingers under his chin. Naomi thought he was doing his best not to appear too excited, but she could see the effect of Carrie's proposal as his breathing had increased. Luca cleared his throat as though he'd argue the point. It's a great idea for Desert Lodge, I agree, but what does Amati get out of it? Kerry was evidently ready for the question. The opportunity to create new, innovative products, and you never know where it might lead. With all the talk about people wanting to go to Mars, I can imagine your dune buggies will be perfect up there, don't you? It's fitting too. The most prestigious car manufacturer on Earth branching out to another planet. Luca's infectious laugh bubbled up from his stomach. Soon, everyone, including the staff, had joined him. You had me until you started talking about Mars. Kerry was the only person not laughing. She'd been serious about Mars. She could see from their reactions that it was probably another of her wild ideas, as Auntie Elsa referred to them. But she wouldn't give in that easily. Well, maybe it's far-fetched, but what about the financial benefits? These guys can pay. How about if we agreed on a special deal so that Amati gets their fair share of the higher costs for the buggies? Would that work for you? Luca's eyes were still laughing, but he could see Kerry had thought her proposal through properly. That sounds like a much better incentive for us. Yes, I can see my dad agreeing to it. Kerry could barely contain her excitement. You can? Oh, that's great! What do you need me to do next? I've prepared all the forecasts, but I would need your input regarding the costs. Santina cleared her throat. Is this going to become a business lunch? Kerry realized immediately that her guest was supposed to be on vacation. Oh, I'm sorry, I got a little carried away. Perhaps if Luca agrees, we could talk about it later. Luca leaned back, a smile on his lips. That sounds like a fantastic plan. Let's do it. He glanced at Santina, but continued to smile as he spoke. Santina practically dragged me out here because she was convinced I was working too hard. She probably didn't imagine I'd find more work here. He winked at Santina and took her hand in his. Kerry got up. In that case, I wouldn't dream of dragging you back to work so soon, Luca. I apologize to both of you. You're right. You're here on vacation, and we'll see that you have the best, most memorable vacation with us. Luca nodded at Kerry, but his eyes flitted in Naomi's direction. I'm already having the best vacation, aren't you, Santina? Santina smiled, nodded, and reiterated Luca's sentiments. Their words placated Kerry, who excused herself from the company. She immediately got busy with the evening's arrangements. Lunch had gone on longer than anyone had realized. The sun had moved away from the pool. Long shadows licked over the lawn, the shade lessening the heat of the day. Luca caught Naomi's eye. Would you like to join me for a swim? Are you sure? Aren't you supposed to be recovering? He winked at her. I can recover better in the pool with you. My feet will appreciate the weightlessness of the water. They're still sore. I may need another foot massage later. Auntie Elsa laughed at the exaggerated expression of pain on Luca's face. But Naomi didn't smile. She wasn't falling for his charms so easily again. Oh no! You've had your chance. You fell asleep and didn't even feel the last one I gave you. But that just shows how good you are, doesn't it? Naomi could see she couldn't win this argument. She sighed. Okay, I'll see you in the pool. She got up and went to change into her swimsuit. By the time she re-emerged, Luca was already in the pool, waving at her, a big smile on his handsome face. They had to share the pool with several of the other guests staying at the lodge, but it didn't seem to bother Luca. This time Naomi didn't dive in. She went down the stairs at the shallow end and swam the length to meet him at the deep end on the opposite side of the pool. "I can watch you swim all day, amore. I'll have you know I used to swim competitively for my school and later at university." Luca nodded. "I knew it. Your form is perfect." His eyes ran down her body. She wasn't sure what form he meant, but decided not to pursue the matter. "How about you? You're a pretty amazing swimmer yourself. Very fast, as I recall." Luca's smile was irresistible. "Yes, I love swimming. I did it competitively too, at my boarding school. I always won." "That I can imagine. Are you as competitive in everything?" Luca pretended to be indignant at her suggestion. "Of course, amore. Is there any other way to be?" No. Naomi imagined losing at anything wouldn't even be in Luca's vocabulary. His world was all about being successful and winning, wasn't it? She had, quite frankly, been amazed that he'd even understood Kerry's concern about wealthy guests going to other lodges because Desert Lodge couldn't compete with their entertainment programs. As though Luca felt Naomi had gone elsewhere in her mind, he touched her shoulder to redirect her attention to him. At his touch, such a thrill went through her body, Naomi was almost disappointed when he removed his hand from her shoulder. Luca looked deep into her eyes as though he was trying to read her soul, but she couldn't read his eyes. He moved a little further away from her. "Did you mean what you said in my room, that I'm a guest and you'd make my stay here as comfortable as possible?" Where was he going with that question? Naomi squinted at Luca. "I may have said that. I thought you were asleep." "I never miss a thing, amore. Did you mean it?" "Of course, Luca. You're a guest here. It's my duty to make your stay good and comfortable." "Why do you do it?" Realization dawned on Naomi. She hesitated, weighing her words before speaking. "So our guests would return? You mean you're thinking of coming back to Desert Lodge? That's fantastic news. It means we've done a good job." She said the words and heard them leaving her mouth. But would she be so happy for Luca to return to the lodge? How would she deal with it? It wasn't something she'd envisaged would happen. Luca moved closer and lifted a stray strand of hair from Naomi's forehead. "You already know we're coming back, amore. It's Santina and your Auntie Elsa's birthday is in July, see? I've heard a lot of plotting going on between the two. They're planning an extravagant party by the sounds." The nearness of Luca affected Naomi's ability to breathe right. She moved away from him a little, but he followed right along, allowing the small waves created by the other swimmers to bob his body towards her. Naomi tried to focus elsewhere, other than on his gorgeous muscled torso and his handsome face that was too beautiful to be real. Other swimmers were getting out of the water and entering the lapa. Naomi registered the mouth-watering aroma from the barbecue that wafted over the pool. She was suddenly ravenous, her light salad at lunch long forgotten. As though in a dream, she noticed steaming plates of food on tables in front of guests, sitting on their towels to keep the chairs dry. Before she could respond to Luca, Kerry appeared at the edge of the pool nearest the lapa. "You'll wrinkle like prunes, guys. We're serving dinner." Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking and sharing my videos. And most of all, thank you very, very much for subscribing to my channel. I appreciate it deeply. Until next time.